Hello? Okay, that was a mechanical noise.
How's it going?
Hey, that's more like a person.
Yeah,
How are you doing today?
doing well, my man. How about yourself?
Well, didn't sleep as much as I wanted to, but I think we're good for like another, like a modest 6 hour stream or something,
It's not bad.
maybe seven. Um, yeah, so I did 12 yesterday. I don't even know how time went that quickly. I had no, I had no like awareness of time whatsoever yesterday, so it's just how it goes, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, okay. Well, it's just let's just jump into it, as a good friend Philip DeFranco would say. So we have Buccaneer, level 220. Wow, it's in the title. That's some good progress. Absolute. I remember that name.
It's your boy.
Yeah, I've seen this one in the game for sure. Okay, so what are we aiming for with your character?
Okay. Trying to stop being a simp and asking for CRA carries every 5 seconds. So I want to essentially get to the point where I can contribute quite a bit, or like essentially just solo it myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's my primary goal. It's never been accomplished on any of my characters, so
Okay.
I want to get to that point where I can start helping other people out, carrying them, or I don't know. Again, obviously progressing through Damien and Lotus there eventually.
Uh-huh.
But start small with CRA.
Okay. And this was not a burn character, right? This is an older character?
No, this is a burn character. I made it 3-4 weeks ago.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And all right. And in general, let's see how's your account looking? Like what kind of stuff do you have in your account character wise?
Before this, I played Adele when it came out. I had a hero that converted. I got it converted to a paladin. I just use those characters for my my Dark World Tree weeklies. I don't spend a lot of time on them. I do plan on with the next burn coming out next week, probably gonna go the marksman route there just to get that extra 10% skill, or not hyper skill, sorry, link skill with the 5% legion. I think I need the crit rate there,
Mm-hmm.
and probably I'll use that as a secondary character to play if it's of my liking.
Yeah, the fifth job is definitely night and day versus anything before that.
Yeah,
It's a huge playability increase.
good. Looking forward to it.
Yep. Legion is slowly getting populated, I see.
Yeah,
What
a
are
lot of those
these?
characters are a couple years old.
What are these like two setups? In what situations do you use these?
I just screwed around, one with like training essentially. The first one is just for training, and the second more geared towards the additional boss damage. I do lose some crit rate out there. I haven't tested it on a BA or anything, so I'm not actually sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I rarely use the second one, to be completely honest. It's not that much of a gain.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, if you're trying to do CRA, maybe you would, but in a lot of situations,
Yeah,
it's more when the grid gets like one size bigger, and that's when the critical damage and the ID come in way harder, and that's when
Yeah.
you won't have as much room to play around in the middle, and then you'll be focusing more on the crit damage and ID, but then end up as the boss damage as well as like your general setup, I'm guessing.
yeah.
Yeah, any kind of training setup. Man, when do you ever really go into bonus experience in your Legion? That's probably got to be like 6k plus before you start even considering that.
Yeah, I think if you fill it all up, it's only an extra 10%.
Yeah, it's 10, and if you lose any kill speed in the other ones because of allocating it to it, then it's already not worth it. So it has to be done on top of everything and not as the main goal. So
Okay.
yeah. Okay. Okay. How's that matrix looking? Is this like your general? Is that what the matrix setup is supposed to look like?
I think I don't have the, like, I have 2 of each of my, I guess, critical skills, if you will. The one I'm missing 2 or a match on is Spiral Assault, but I use that primarily just for mobility and bossing. It's not really a DPS output for me, so I'm not too worried about it. But
what do you have 3 of here? Is that Nautilus?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Wait, so it's 12. Wait, 11. So wait, are you boosting 5.5 skills now?
Let me see here.
Or like,
so yeah, I have my Nautilus Strike 3 times, and then my Octopunch, Power Unity, Dragon Strike, and Buck Blast all 2 times, and then just Spiral Assault is once.
which one is Spiral? Oh, is that one on the bottom right of the top right one? Is that Spiral Assault?
That's right, yeah. It's the one, yeah, it's just like the drill that you move side to side with.
I see. So if you eventually find one that replaces the first or the second one that has one Spiral Assault instead of Nautilus, you could just move it over and then you're like done.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you're just keeping an eye out for those to kind of round it out. But right now you're not near like level 15 or near level 20, so you're not near maxing anyway, so
yeah,
doesn't matter that much. I see, yeah. And then you prioritize the Lord of the Deep because that's where a lot of your damage comes from.
Yeah. I'm wondering, I guess, with the third shop, with the Wake shop there, with the experience node stones, if I should throw those at Lord of the Deep or my boost nodes.
Well, your boost nodes can still make some gains for sure. What do you, so Load of the Deep is both used for mobbing and bossing.
Yeah, it's up all the time essentially.
Yeah. Does it already allow you to like lazy train where you just hop through the map and everything just kind of dies because you get near it?
When I'm doing my like vanquishing journey and choo choo dailies, no problem. It's the in Lachlan, I'm not one shotting yet.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, you're quote unquote you're only 220, so that kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You just got there. Yeah, it's a bit of a toss-up, I guess. If Lord of the Deep is that important and it has max uptime, then it probably makes more sense to level that.
Okay.
The regular nodes will. I mean, they'll eventually get there.
Yeah, exactly. And the you can get another 70 node stones out of that third shop as well. So, and I plan on.
Yep, and a second burn maybe you can salvage some nodes there, right?
Can you transfer those nodes?
So you can't transfer them. What you can do is you can use the experience nodes to level up the nodes when you open them all, and then you can disenchant them all, and then with the shards you can make transferable node stones as well. When you go to the node stone character, there's like the node craft, right? Like craft nodes, and then there's you can craft specific nodes, or you can craft node stones, and those are the same ones that drop in the map whenever you kill monsters, like those white and blue sparkly ones, and those can be transferred. So it seems that most people who did that, they can, from the 90 plus the 5, I think, experience nodes, they were able to salvage like between 50 and 55 node stones back. So that's a nice extra bonus and extra value out of your Terror Burn.
Yep. Good to know.
Yep. Nice little extra there. Yeah, I bet you're looking to throw a bind in there, huh?
Well, I usually swap out my again, just for the bosses I'm doing right now, Serpent Vortex. I'll take that out and throw in the bind.
This a dash?
Yeah, again, it's only for the bosses I'm capable of doing right now. Like I'm not like for Lucid. I do understand it's quite sorry, for Lotus. I understand it's quite useful with the lasers.
Yep.
But I'm not there yet, so it's not in my kit when I boss right now.
Yeah, so between that skill and between the fuck, what is it called? Meltdown or something? What is this called again?
Yeah, Meltdown.
Between that one and you can go through the lasers a few times as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, between those two, and then the other thing is an iframe as well, right? The new skill, and is that one on 60-second cooldown or 90 or 120?
90.
90. Oh yeah. Nice, right in between all of the all of the other skills that synchronize in a team fight. Always cool to have. Yeah, exactly. It'll be kind of like boss dependent. You also kind of get to the point where it might start paying off to unlock an extra slot. in the sense that getting a new slot takes longer and longer, but you also become more financially potent usually. Like you have more financial buying power, so you can try to get those without it being like a huge negative impact to your character's like state, where you're like, oh well, I bought this slot, so now now no potions for 2 weeks. Like it's not like that anymore. So you can consider that if you find yourself in a difficult position on a boss, like you can't confirm your damage properly or anything like that, then I consider getting the bind in there.
Okay.
And if you're in if you're in a bossing party and you don't need to use that bind, then you can throw the pirate flag in, and you can help everyone out a little bit more. I think pirate flag, if you level pirate flag, it gets a pretty high uptime, right?
I'm not too sure.
Yeah, what I usually do for I googled pirate flag. That's not gonna show me what I want to. Pirate's banner. What I usually do is with like any skill, I just Google them just to see how they change when they level up. To see like, okay, is this high priority? Do I want to level this one up, or is something else that is way more useful, like the Lord of the Deep? Is that just gonna stick head and shoulders above all the other ones, and do I not even have to worry? So it seems that the pirate flag, the uptime stays the same, but the cooldown goes down by 1 second per level, and the IED goes up almost 1% per level. It ends up at 25% IED, 25% stat boost, and has 100% uptime at the end. 30-second cooldown, 30-second duration. So if you throw that down on something like Lucid or something, everyone who's near Lucid is going to see a very nice increase in damage. So for those bosses, for stationary bosses like that, it's very useful. But again, you need the room for it, of course. It's not a priority, and it does help yourself. But if you're doing Damien, he's just flying around all the time. It's not going to do all that much there. So very situational.
Okay.
But a good tool to have for sure. Except if you're partying with the DA, they don't get anything from it.
Yeah.
They already have enough IED and they get 0 stats, so they're not really gonna need you to do that or anything. Okay, yeah, once you get to 40 on the boost nodes, you'll see that IED kick in there, so that'll be nice. Because I saw your IED is probably one thing that we have to look into a little bit, right? How you can help you out with that. Yeah. That's going to be also the main thing, even for CRA already. Like, IED that low is going to be troublesome for CRA. You do have your passive that allows you to get 100% IED every now and then, but you can't really rely on that for your calculations. So sadly, it would almost be better to have like 100% chance to avoid 15% or something than 40% chance to avoid 100%, because it's because you can't count on it. You can't put it into your calculations.
It's guaranteed. Yeah, exactly.
It works unfavorable. So what would you say, like, is this your Legion setup just most of the time, or do you switch out some things sometimes? Sorry, your Link skill setup, I mean.
I juggle between, just depending on when I swap to whatever character I'm playing on, but I'd say for the most part this is pretty consistent with what I run.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, like the Beast Tamer, I just can't find it in me to play and get it to level 2. I'm sure that'll come eventually. And then same with the Wild Rage Link, getting back to level 2.
So like the points regarding this setup is that Iron Will is pretty disposable here. Okay. Because when you're training higher level areas, the monsters, once you have the arcane power, the monsters don't really deal damage to you anymore. So HP is not a thing. And then when every boss that you're going to do now, everything does percentage HP damage. So if you have more HP, you just take more damage. So it doesn't increase your survivability functionally. So that one's probably the first one to go from this list because of that. The adventure crit, you want to get rid of that, but of course only if you stay at 100% crit or near that. So that's not like an initial thing we remove, but it is something that we look at because it only gives crit, and even at that, not that much. If you are bossing specifically, then Elven Blessing doesn't do anything, so we might want to check if we can move that for something else that does more damage. And then Noble Fire is only useful if you're in a party. So if you're solo bossing, that one is also low priority. Okay. And then the one other thing is that if you level up your other pirates, like your Corsair and your Cannoneer, you can link their link skills to stack with yours that you already have in the top left.
Okay.
So that's like free damage that you can stack on without even consuming a slot. So that's also something that you can look into.
Good to know. Okay.
Yeah, other than that, all of these seem like very decently, like, you know, what you would expect for someone near your level. Eventually, once you get like a lot stronger later on, you can start replacing some stuff, like probably, well, so we could talk about like what you would replace. Like one of the skills that you would get in there is definitely like the Kadena link. Once you get higher level than the bosses you're fighting and you debuff them, which you probably do, right, with the Dragon Strike thing.
Yeah.
Then you get 12% damage, so that would be huge. Typically, Elementalism gets replaced with the Explorer Mage once you have that one fully stacked, because you're trading out 10% damage for 9% damage and 9% IED, so that will always be more useful. But of course, yeah, if the other ones you have, if there are some other link skills that are not as useful, then you want to switch those out instead, of course.
Okay. Does the like with Zero just released yesterday or whatever their link getting that IED, is it worth it? Like I did end up making a Zero, and I'm slowly progressing just through the storyline to level up the link.
Yeah, I think it's right at the same level as Ho Young, right? I think they both give 10%.
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, there would be a toss-up between the two. For you, if you look at what would increase your damage output the most, those will probably be very high priority because you definitely need that IED. But we'll look into some other sources of IED that you might have access to, and then see if it's still necessary after that, I would say. But those are definitely contenders, yeah, for your situation, for sure. The other thing that will probably come in later is, I think, the Angelic Buster link, because even though it's typically for classes that have very high burst, and you don't necessarily have like insane burst, I think it's on a 90-second cooldown if I'm not mistaken, which is exactly the same as your 4th V. So you could always pop those two together to get that that decently extra percentage damage in every time when you use that skill. So that synchronizes nicely. So that could be something to look at as well. I'm thinking if I'm forgetting any specific link skill, because I don't know if you've seen the link skill grid that I have, where I try to put all the characters kind of like.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. No, I definitely have that. Yeah, I've looked through it.
So you made the Beast Tamer when you saw it, and then was like, nope, not for me.
Yeah, that was a while back. I think when it was honestly first released.
Helium, I don't think I should move that much. You have the Arc, Demon Avenger can get leveled up a little bit. Oh yeah, the only other thing for bossing, you don't need the knockback resistance, right? The only thing for bossing that would be very valuable is the resistance link.
Okay.
Where you, do you know what it does?
No.
So when you die, and you have the resistance link, you get X, like, seconds of invincibility, equal to the level of the skill, and they're the same as like with your Pirate Blessing. Like you can take one of each of the different resistance classes and stack them into the same one for up to 8 seconds. So in a lot of bosses, and basically anything CRA and up, they're super useful. Like let's say in Vellum that you die, you respawn, and you respawn right into a tail. You just don't take any damage for like, well, it says 8 seconds, but it's like 8 seconds on a point that you click. So by the time you're loaded and you land, it's down to like 7 or 6.5 seconds. And then, but you know, you can get a few things done. You can rebuff a few things without the imminent danger of immediately dying again. And for a lot of bosses, anything CRA and up, really, like if you're fighting H-Mag and there's some poison mist in the corner that will stun you, or you know, the immediate tick damage that you get from being outside of the blue area, or for Lotus and Damien, if you respawn in the laser, like right into the laser, you die again immediately. Like a lot of that stuff can happen. So the resistance link is going to be very, very, very useful for survivability further on.
Okay.
Resistance characters are historically not the fastest or easiest characters to level though, so those, I think for a lot of people, those end up on their mega burn list for characters, but you know, maybe you like them, so give them a try. You have the Lumi. Oh, and I think the Demon Slayer, I think we're missing that one. Yeah, Demon Slayer is the one that was missing. So that's 10, 15, 20 boss damage and level 1, 2, 3. So that gets...
Yeah, I did end up making one not too long ago. Which one is that? That's the Fury Unleashed. Yeah, I have it at, obviously it's level 1 right now, but slowly chipping away.
Yeah. Oh wait, did I miss it?
It's the third character, level 111 down there. Level. I don't have it. I don't think I have it attached to my link in the screenshot there, but it's the
Okay.
third last character I have. Yeah.
Third last. Oh, there it is. I see it. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah, that'll. So once you start specifically bossing, that'll definitely come in place instead of something like Noble Fire, right? Because you know, like the differences between like damage and boss damage and how they correlate with each other.
I have a general understanding, but
Well, so basically they're the same, but of course one of them only applies when you're bossing, and the other one applies all the time.
monsters, right?
But they get thrown into the same pile as if they are like the same source once you are fighting bosses. So once and then the real thing is that boss damage just scales better, and then in general, just since it is as good as the other stuff, but you don't tend to need percentage damage specifically anymore, because at a certain point your level of your nodes and your arcane power is going to be so high that your average kill speed is you're just going to be dumpstering all the monsters near your level anyway, and then you want to start stacking boss damage way over regular damage because of how it tends to scale better. The game is inherently is like, oh, you have to get more boss damage than damage because boss damage doesn't apply all the time. But we don't need we don't need the damage to apply all the time. We just need a bigger number. So that yeah, that's why that Demon Slayer link comes in very handy later in the game, especially now as well, since maybe in your Legion you're not pumping as much boss damage yet. So it'll help pick up some of that slack there. Okay, so with all of that, what is your crit rate at right now? Are you able to keep 100% or?
No, I'm not at 100. Even when I'm like buffed up with decent sharp eyes there, I think I'm
With
yeah
95 with DSC. Okay.
That's also with me rolling a 4 on my buff.
It's with a 4? Oh wait, how much is that? Is that 20%?
Double check here.
Roll of the dice. Pirate. Oh, that's really fucking useful. It just says the timer for the buff. 15. Some says maybe 15.
15%. Okay.
Wait a minute.
So I think it is. It should be 15% because I'm at base. My base crit rate is 70%.
70. Yeah.
And
Okay.
in that screenshot there, I had decent sharp eyes plus the 4 rolled. So.
Okay. Wait. So you have 70, and that's with the level 2 Phantom, level 1 Beast Tamer, and level 2 Archer.
I don't think I have. Do I have the level 2 archer in there?
In the picture for the Lynx skills you did, right? Adventures, whatever the fuck. Like, that gives you crit and, that's like the Archer Explorer skill, right?
Oh, yeah. The extra 4% there, yeah.
Yeah, so that's 4 there, 3 there, and 15 there. And then 15 from the 4 dice. Okay, so you're relying on the 4 dice now. I mean, that's nice. That's the flexibility of the roll, right?
Yeah.
That you can rely on the ID when the crit rate when you need it. When you don't need it anymore, you roll it to damage, and if you're training, you roll it for experience. That is nice, a nice flexible skill.
Yeah, that's kind of where the marksman burn comes next week. I'm hoping get that extra 15%. It's needed, I think.
Exactly. Wait. So the archer gives you 4 now. So we would get. Hang on, wait. I can check here. Never mind. Gives. Wait, 3, 10. Hang on, wait. Level 1 gives 3, and then level 6 gives 10. Yeah, I don't know what the exact numbers are in between, but somewhere between 3 and 10. Okay. So if you get 2 more archers. Yeah, because I'm thinking, so you get it to 200, so that means the marksmen themselves would give you 4%.
Yeah.
And do you have a Night Lord for your Legion?
I do have a Night Lord, yeah, level 2 link there.
Level 2 link. Oh yeah, so 120. Is it... Wait, is it at 140 or no? Night Lord. Not seeing a picture. But if that, yeah, if that one got at least a 140, then you can get 3% there. I don't know if you... So, yeah, do you have the 3% for Night Lord?
Sorry, my bad. It's a dual blade. I'm looking at Thieves' Cunning. I was...
Ah, I see. Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah. So if you get a Night Lord to at least 140, that'll be an extra 3%.
Yeah.
Added a Marksman will add the total to 7, and then the skill itself will go up as well. So I think you'll end up at 10 there. There should be an easy extra 3 in your Beast Tamer, right?
Yeah, I have, it's currently at, yeah, it'd be an extra 3 at level 2.
So that'd be 13.
Jump from 4 to 7%.
So that would get us 13 more. So that would get us to 108 compared to where we are now. But you still want to get rid of the roll of the dice. So that gets us down to 93. So then we still need 7%. And for that, we're probably looking at redoing your hyperstats. Because that'd be 1, 2, 3. That'd be really close. Squeeze in 1 more percent sometimes. Because if you get the crit rate to 9, that would give us 6% extra. Then we'd be at 99. Which, you know, that's close enough, right? Oh yeah, you get a little bit more when you move your grid over, right?
Yeah.
So do you build up... Wait, do you build up 7 extra? How much do you build up extra there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 extra. Okay, 5. Oh yeah, that's the 5 that you need to get to 100. So we're doing the minus 15, then plus the 10, plus the 3. So then we need 2 more. So that would be just 1 extra level in critical rate then. And then what that would mean is that if you get those, if you get that Night Lord, you get that Marksman, you keep the same links that you do now, and you switch your Legion to the bossing thing. That means you can change, instead of a 4 roll on your dice, you can use a 5 dice on your 5 roll on your dice for I think 20% damage, and then all you have to do is redo the hyperstats to get 1 extra critical rate, and that
Okay.
would be enough as long as you have those characters in place. In general, I would advocate for a but it's good to have that background. But I would do some work on the hyperstats in general. So I would reset it, because so the critical damage is nice if you can get to that 100% crit rate. But we do want to get right now we have a little bit of like a lopsided distribution, because your critical rate is at 6 and your critical damage is at 11. And to get it to where that is now, to get that critical damage, you're sacrificing a lot of percentage damage as well from the dice roll, right? So we kind of want to even that out so that maybe your critical damage goes down a bit, but it does make your total damage and your damage output actually go up. Same thing for the percentage damage. Like I mentioned before, the boss damage actually ends up scaling better later on. But what you are in need of right now more is the ignore defense, and ignore defense is only at level 6 in your hyperstat, so we'll be prioritizing that one more for now. The one thing we need to look at on how much we're going to redistribute the hyperstats is to figure out what are all the sources of IED that you can possibly have, and how do we go about... oh, here are the best, yeah. How do we go about getting those sources of ID to you as a player? So you're currently using temporary CRA, and then you want to use that to get the permanent CRA, right?
So I actually was fortunate enough. I ended up getting into a Damien run yesterday. So I ended up getting I have an Absol ready to go. I haven't swapped it out yet though. But I do have my Absol, permanent Absol left in there. I wanted to skip CRA completely.
Yeah, that is for the tire burn. That is very possible, because you get so many extra nodes, so yeah, all the extra levels and stuff. Yeah, you can definitely. You have 90 days of temporary CRA. Like you can almost get to arcane at that point. Like it's, if you really play a lot, that's there's much ground to be covered there for sure. Okay. So that skips that point. Your secondary is at 12, attack 9 damage to any boss. Okay, that makes sense for current situation. The emblem. Okay, we'll get back to that one. The emblem has
Damage instead of attack.
yeah, so basically, so it's, you know, since we talked about damage and boss damage, does that make sense? Like how much room there is for improvement on the emblem when you
Absolutely
take that into consideration, right? You're basically it's almost yeah, like the whole emblem is basically the same as the bottom. It's like less than the bottom 2 lines of your secondary, right?
Yeah.
It's basically like just 21% boss and 9 stat, which is yeah. But that's good to know because it's already legendary, and also it's good to know that you can just roll red cubes on there, and basically if you just get like 1 line of 9% attack, it's probably already an upgrade. Like it's almost in that wheelhouse, but I mean probably need a little bit more than that, but it's like close.
Yeah.
And then you have a permanent head that's waiting because you already have a temporary one, so why go overboard? Makes sense. Temporary is waiting. Okay. Temporary is waiting. Makes sense. Glove with some
So
nice
I
stats.
did end up swapping the bottom for the CRA. I ended up getting it to 15 stars, and it is better than the temp.
I see. Yeah, the 15 star. Yeah, if you work a little bit on the flame and a little bit on the you don't want to like gimp yourself if you have the access, of course.
Yeah.
But I'm all in favor of just letting temporary stuff do the work and like carry you as far as they can before you replace, because all of that money, of course, if you spend it in other places. But of course, events can come in and kind of mess up the order of stuff there. Okay, so ID wise, and your current at. So do you know about the difference between the visual ID in your window and how much ID you're actually putting out? Like your difference between the visual and the functional ID?
Nope.
So, well, one thing, for example, you know that that skill you have, right? It's what is it called again? Like Typhoon Crush or something. The chance to block to get 100% ID.
Right, for that. Yeah, that we were talking about that 40%.
Yeah. I think it's 40% chance to ignore 100% defense, right?
Yeah.
So basically what that means is that your stat window shows you this is how much ID you have, regardless of what attack you use, regardless of what thing you attack. This is going to be the ID that attack gets you, regardless of those 2 things. But other stats might influence that. So for example, you can have hyper stats that add IED. You can have things like the Typhoon Crush, right, that gives you that chance. Or you can have bosses that are debuffed with certain things that lower their defense, things like with the Mageling skill, for example, or other debuffs that other party members have. So there's going to be a difference between functionally what your visibly what your stat window says and what actually ends up being applied. And the very real example is Typhoon Crush adds, well, then the 67%. You might as well have 0% in your stat window. If that skill activates, you get 100%. So what we use in the calculation of like what is the number that we're aiming for is going to be what is functionally being applied 100% of the time versus what does your stat window say that is going to be applied 100% of the time. The stat window is trying to approximate that, but what if all of your skills that you use all have a level 40 boost node and all give you 20% IED? The stat window won't say it because it has to say the number regardless of which skill you're using. But functionally, you always have that 20%. So it's important to keep those in mind, because between the ID percentage, the boss damage percentage, and the weapon attack percentage, those are the big 3 types of stats that we apply to our weapon, secondary, and emblem. And the distribution between those 3 stats is very important if you want to optimize our damage on bosses. Again, that's the main thing we're looking at. We're looking at bosses with PDR of 300% and up. So that's everything Lotus, Damien, and Helix is also at 250, so that one kind of falls into that category. Vellum used to be 300, but is now down to 200, so it's a little bit more approachable. But we try to balance those big 3 stats between those 3 big items to optimize your DPS on bosses specifically. And like I said, we don't really optimize for mobbing because eventually we're just going to destroy things regardless. So we're specifically looking at that boss damage output.
Okay.
Speaking of PDR, do you know how that works with like armor for bosses and stuff, and the IED, how that interacts with each other?
Well, I've heard you talk about it. I like the whole 1% IED is an extra 3% damage, something like that, or is it the other way around? If like, I'm using like a 300% PDR boss.
Yeah. So yeah, so technically it's even a little bit more, right? Because you are doing 3%, 3% on top of what you're doing, but what you're doing is lower than 100, so it's bigger than a 3% increase, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So if you're going from 70% damage output to 73% of your damage output, 3 on 70 is more than 3%. That's like, I don't know. That's like closer to 4. Yeah, it's like more than 4%, right? It's like 4 point something percent. Yeah. So that's why it's so efficient, especially in the higher level bosses. But again, the higher you are, the more you need to stack to get just 1% extra, right? If you're at 98 and you want to go from 98 to 99, you need to add 50%. So
exactly.
At that point, it becomes quite tricky. But once your Legion grows and your Link skills all level up a bit, the main sources that we're looking at right now, because let me just put up exclamation mark IED. I think the main thing that we might get a lot of gains from, because I don't know what your familiar situation is right now.
Garbage. It's non-existent.
Okay, so I think that is one where we will see a lot of gains, and that is probably one that we have to take into calculation first before we try to like reassess everything and redo like, oh, you need the 2 link skills and the 2 ID link skills in, and you need to get like 12 in your hyperstats or something, right? We need to kind of see what are the other sources that are more easily accessible and that don't go at the expense of a lot of damage potential, and we need to exploit those first when it comes to IED, and then go from there. Like one long-term process, for example, is the Monster Parker medal. If you're planning to sticking with this character for a long time, I don't know if that's something you're working on.
Yeah, I think I'm like 30 days in, or 30 out of whatever the 77 you require. So I've been doing it. I've been doing it 7 times a day, every day for the past since I started the character, with the exception of like 1 day.
Okay. Yeah. You're gonna miss some days. It's we're only human.
That's right.
So it's like, okay, so ambition levels slower over time when you're bossing, so that's all fine. Equip base stats, that'll just come in. You have CRA, and you're getting the Abso weapon, so that's a 10% line on there, I believe. Set bonus, yeah, so Gollux, basically you just skip everything until you can get to Helix, and until you get the superior set. Like, that's going to be quite far away, depending on if you're doing party runs or if you're getting carried. Remember, you can do party runs because the coins are instant, so everyone gets their own. And as long as you have some kind of loot rotation set up in case something drops, then that could be something to look into. Otherwise, a buddy who's going, or if you're in a guild where people carry every now and then, you can get some runs here and there. But yeah, it is that is a very, very powerful set bonus, and accordingly is also quite difficult to get. It makes sense with how good it actually is. It was way too easy to get before. If you look at how good the other sets are, it didn't really make much sense how easily it was accessible. But yeah, so that's going to be huge. But that's mainly going to be like a 30% blob afterwards that is going to allow you to, in some situations, let's say that you temporarily need like 2 lines of IED between your weapon, secondary, and your emblem to get enough IED to get your damage through. And then being able to access that is going to allow you to reroll one of those lines, for example, and then optimize your damage more, or like specifically dedicate more resources to boss damage and attack percentage versus IED. But we'll do some like rough guesstimation on how much you need. Legion grid bonus, so that's what you're working on. That's still going to be growing. Legion member bonus, yeah. Link skills, you already have. We already have those in the back of our mind. So yeah, familiars is going to be quite big. We could do like a rudimentary setup, kind of see what you're working with when it comes to what is up, guys? Okay, let's see. So your Lumi Link is 15, right?
Yes.
We don't have Leaf for Codex anymore. King weapon. How much is in the Abso weapon?
The Abso weapon gives you 10% ID. It's the same as CRA.
Yeah. Sierra head is 10, top and bottom is 5. Ambition is probably not that high right now, right?
My ambition, no, level 33. I get 3%.
Yeah. Your nodes are not 40 yet, so that's a big one.
Nope.
Legion is giving 13.
Let me see here. Yeah, 13 ID.
Okay, so the next level we'll go to 21, then to 30, then to 40 if you fill it out completely. No Monster Parker Medal yet. No Superior Golic set. Beast Tamer is rank
1. Garbage.
Wait, rank for your Legion is rank 8?
Oh, for the Legion. I don't even. Yeah, it's yeah,
like,
rank A or B. Sorry, it's B.
So what is that? 2%? 1%?
1% ID.
Nice.
Yeah.
Should we get everything in there?
Do you have to have the Beast Tamer on the grid to get that effect?
Yeah, it has to be on the board to get the member bonus. Yeah,
Okay.
member bonus is
have
like
it on the board, but
oh yeah, well yeah, if it's 1%. It's but yeah, yeah. And do you have a blaster?
I think I do. Yes, I do. 170 ID 3%.
Nice. Yeah, so the member bonus looks at all the characters that you selected on your board. What do they give you? And then can only apply once per class. And then the other one is and then the grid bonus looks at where did you place the pieces and what does that give you. Okay. Okay, so what kind of skills do you have that inherently give you extra ID? You have 6. So is that 18% from hyperstats, right?
Yeah, I got 18% from hyperstats there.
Okay.
And then for that blaster, did you put 1% or 3%?
Blaster. Oh, I put named it Blaster 3, but I called it I gave it 1%. There you go. Yeah, I gotta be correct. What else are you looking at? Event buff, title, guild skills, potion. No. Yeah, what are like specific Buccaneer skills that you have that give you IED? Because there's got to be something, right? Because we're coming up to 58 and you have 67 here.
So I don't. That a Typhoon Crush is not incorporated in that.
No. Oh, what's your set bonus for your boss pieces? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So is that one line of 10%?
The boss is. You got yeah, one line of 10% IED at the 7 set effect there. So.
Okay. None of your other sets give IED.
It might be the Eternal Flame that you have. I have that what do you call it? What is it? The effect from the burning gives another 10% IED.
Oh, okay.
That's, yeah, it's limited, but
that's the title, yeah.
Yeah, the title.
Okay, I guess it's at 66.22 here. So that's kind of close. There might be one other thing. There's no inherent skill. Don't forget that Buccaneer only needs 70% crit rate plus decent shot buys on bosses. We have a passive 20% crit on bosses. Oh.
Yeah, that's the precision strike. I saw Cow's message there. It's an additional critical rate, yeah, on bosses by 20%. So it's so getting, I guess, that crit rate to 90 just in general for mobbing. Base 90.
Yeah, base 90 for mobbing. That would be the difference. I don't know how close is the Phantom, but like it would be really interesting if like the one thing you can do is just swap for the Phantom link, because that one is exactly that 20 that you need. If it's level 210, and then just for mobbing, and then for bossing you swap it out with something that gives you damage.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're saying like maybe it's worth burning the Phantom to 210 and then dropping out that yeah.
Yeah, because the marksman won't be hitting as hard because you want to get rid of that archer link anyway, so you're only getting that 3 to 4% from the Legion board. That's really the one that you'll be aiming for. Yeah, and since I didn't incorporate that 20% and we're trying to optimize for bossing, so like to go back to the drawing board a little bit on the crit. So like you're at 95 now, you'll get to 100 once you're bossing with your Legion there. but then basically you're at 120. So at that point, if you get rid of the well, the archer for sure, and you get rid of the dice, that's about the 20%, right? So then for bossing, you can already switch right now with your current setup.
Yeah, I'm at 70 base right now with all my links. So
Yeah.
I'm and you throw in, yeah, I'll have 100 right now for bossing. But if you're saying to lose the, so where are my links here?
Yeah, so for mobbing, okay, yeah, okay, makes sense. Okay, hang on. So for bossing, you were going to visual 100%, but for bossing visually, you only need to go to 80. But for mobbing, you need to visually go to 100. But for mobbing visually, you're at 95, right?
With, rolling a 4.
Yeah, so the difference between, so right now your option would be leveling the Phantom, and then you would be at 100 for mobbing with what you're doing now. And when you're bossing and you switch to Legion, then switch out the Archer link and switch the dice roll from a 4 to a 5. Then you would be at 100 for both.
Yeah.
Yep. And then eventually you will work on those criticals on the side and put more critical rate in hyperstat so that you can switch out. Instead of using the 4 for mobbing, you want to switch to the 6, right? So you can get more experience there. So that first thing was like the short-term solution, but the longer-term solution is to get more base crit, so that you can stop using the 4 dice there.
But like unless I'm missing it, I might just be missing it. But I didn't think like the dice roll is completely luck, right?
Yes, until you get your weighted dice fifth skill. So that's one that you might want to incorporate when you're just in general in your kit. Maybe over some of the boost notes that give you boost note to skills that aren't as useful for bossing.
Okay.
Because then you can just use that skill. You can determine which roll you want, and then use the roll of the dice. And the first die will always be that one. And then the second one will be like 50% chance on double down, and then the third one will also always roll. So you always roll at least 2 dice if you have that skill on. But it'll be the first one and the third die will be guaranteed, and then the second one will be, I think it's 50% if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a very useful skill, and that's when that's why leveling is so important, man. You gotta get those slots, or consider buying them, because there's so many useful skills for sure. I guess for mobbing, that 4th V is like the least useful, I guess, because you're probably killing faster than that skill can really warrant. Maybe you'd use it on an elite or something to get rid of them faster, but
it's exactly what I do. I only ever use it for an elite, and even then, it's an elite, and like Latchly and everything else can go down pretty fast.
Yeah, and I don't know how much meltdown helps with training.
I rarely use it.
Yeah. So switching one of those 2 out for the loaded dice would be very useful then.
Okay.
So consider crafting that one. And it gives passive attack, which is also a little bit nice, but it's mainly mainly being able to determine what dice roll you get. Yeah, because then you can just like guarantee 6 for mobbing, guarantee 5 for bossing, and then 4 maybe, sometimes if you need it to get up there, but ideally you only want to be picking between 5 and 6, either the damage or the EXP.
Okay.
But yeah, giving yourself, just in general, I think it's going to be a good idea to look into sources of ID, sources of crit, and making those available to you so you can start puzzling there with whatever situation you're in, and always kind of like make the best choice for your current situation. And I think with all of that in mind, that definitely also requires you to get a bunch of familiars and just open them all up. Common familiars ironically have the best rates of getting you 15% ID.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's around like a 1% chance, so like roughly like 100 that you have to open to get one. You have at least 2 slots available, I assume?
For my familiars?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be complete. I don't think I've ever opened it up.
Okay, well then you only have one available. So you want to complete at least one badge, to unlock the second slot. And there's they're just like those three little guys to the left of Edelstein. Like those are one badge, for example. So if you just get one of each of those three cards and put them in, then you will get an extra badge, and then you just have to click like through a little bit of a storyline. Just like click talk to an NPC, and then you'll unlock your second slot, and then you can equip the other ones. I guess we could do a quick rundown. So if you open it up, there's going to be nothing in there for you, but if you check out on stream, like once you have a familiar and you double click it, it'll go into your collection like this. Standard, they'll be unlocked, but you can lock them with this little lock here to make sure that if you're trying to disassemble and stuff, they don't accidentally get disassembled if you want to keep them.
Okay.
Early on, the only things that are really going to be useful is like things that give a little bit of healing, a little bit of drop rate, and IED. Like those are the only things that are really useful. Maybe you can get something like like there's a 6% crit rate here, for example. Like a little bit like that could also help if you're not getting anything. Like these two boys together can give you 11% crit, but ideally you want to get that IED. That's like a very important one. Okay. So if you get a new card, this will be like a question mark, and you just click it and then pay the cost, and it's like revealing the potential on an item essentially. And then if you go to setup, then you can click them and you can put them in here, click save, and then you will get the skill here in your beginner tab on a button, summon familiars, and then if you press that, they will, well, if you press the right button, that is, where is it, F8, then they will pop up, boom, like that. And then they will give you the buff that they are supposed to give right here.
Okay.
And then you have the main thing is you have the summon gauge. So the longer you have them out, the more points they consume. And the more defense you have, the slower this gets consumed. And monsters gain defense by leveling, which happens if you kill monsters near your level while they're out. And of course, the more you have summoned, the more characters can level, and the more defense you can get, so the slower this depletes.
Okay.
So one badge for the second slot, but for the third slot you need 10 badges, which is significantly harder. So I would definitely say like just go for one badge. The badges are here, by the way, so it's under the badges tab. And there you can see which ones you have completed, and you can equip up to 8 to get like minor stats. There's some IED gains possible there as well, but it's like 3% per, and most of those are pretty tricky to do. But if you click the list, you can see all of the available badges. So the starter badge, which is the oppressor badge, that's the one I talked about. It's just like the 3 little guys left of Edelstein. Like there's just 3 of those. That's very easy. Yep. Or you go for the 4 snails and the 3 snails in the shroom. Like that one's very fast too.
Okay.
And then the quest should appear here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like if you have a bunch of spares, you can turn them into coins and stuff, but that's all for later. But there's like familiar essence here, for example. This allows you to reset 50% of your total gauge if it ever does deplete and you want to play more. But in general, like at reset at the end of the day, it fully replenishes again. Yeah, if you play one character all the time and you have it out all the time, it might make a difference. But if the main thing you're going for is IED, you're only going to have it out when you're bossing, so that's not going to be the whole day, so you should be fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, and you do have presets now, but yeah, that's not going to come into play for you yet. But similar with Legion, you can do like one for mobbing, one for bossing, so you can quickly switch. So that's a nice little feature they added. Yeah, so the easiest place to get a lot of these is just maps where you can kill quickly and you know that they drop. So like Forsaken Excavation Site 2, for example, a lot of monsters are very close together. You can kill a lot of monsters there. But lower areas as well, if you're leveling new characters and you're training at Drakes, for example, you'll see a lot of cards drop there as well. So if you take a bunch of characters through those levels, you'll be able to accumulate a bunch of cards as well. But of course, character that is able to manipulate the spawn or has more drop rate themselves will get the cards faster. So yeah, whatever character you have that can accumulate those. But I would definitely try to go for 15%. So if you add that here, we added 2 fam 1. Like, let's say that this is what you have now, because I don't think we're missing out on anything. Familiar 1, familiar 2. Oh, okay, now we're looking at 75 already. Then the next thing would be to get your hyperstat higher. So that's an 18% now. We definitely want to get that one to a 30. So we'll look at the hyperstat 18, click that one, and we'll do hyperstat 30 instead. And then I think what would be very useful is like 1 line of IED on your emblem to at least bridge the gap, hopefully for a 40% line. And then we're getting like really close to where you want to be already.
Okay. Okay.
It is possible that you go to town on your weapon and you get something like 1 line of boss, 1 line of IED, 1 line of attack or something. That would be very good temporarily to hold as well. And if you do have that and you reroll your emblem and your emblem rerolls into 2 lines of attack, then you can keep that set up as well. You got to be like really flexible in these stages, because if you want to go perfectly for like I need 40 IED and then 18 attack on the emblem, and I need 40 boss and 18 attack on the secondary, and then I need 33 attack on a weapon. Like if you're going for those, you're going to take so much money away from everything else, and you're probably not even going to get there, and then your overall damage output is going to be so much lower than you can get. So in the beginning, you just, you take what you can get, kind of like what you did with the emblem, but it's not as close to what you wanted it to probably initially to be. So like 1 line of IED, 1 line of attack or something would be great on your emblem for now.
Okay.
And then you could just settle on that, and then just try to go for full attack on your weapon as much as you can get. But that extra IED will increase your total damage output by so much.
Yeah. Okay. Now, when do I make the jump? And I'm struggling to commit to Absol. Like, when do I make that jump to the Absol weapon? Is it when I have the shoulder ready to go? Because you're gonna break that. You lose that 30% boss damage from the CRA set effect, right?
Sorry, I just blanked in my brain completely. Sorry, what did you say?
So
CRA?
4 set CRAs, you get an extra 30%, right? For boss damage?
Yes, 30 boss, yes.
So I switch out, I swap in my Absol weapon, I lose that 30 boss, that effect. Am I then trying to make up for that by rolling a boss line on a potential, or?
Not specifically. You will be getting more boss through other sources. It's not like your boss damage is like low or anything. Of course, now you're at that 152 because of the set bonus. But it kind of does mean that you want to make sure that the Abzo is adequately upgraded before you switch over.
Okay.
But of course, since Abzo does also... Because Abzo will later on bring back that 30% boss line through its own set bonus. So once you get probably the shoulder and the shoe are going to be next, and then maybe the cape. And then once you switch out the glove, it'll be right back there with you.
Okay.
So, yeah, you're kind of trading out. You're losing out some boss damage. You're trading it out with a lot of weapon attack, which is good, right? Because the base attack of Knuckles isn't very high. So, with the flame being higher and with the base being a lot higher, that will probably roughly compensate. And then once the set bonus comes in, then it'll be a plus on top of it again. But yeah, like I said, if you roll some kind of combination of attack, boss damage, and IED, then the overall value that gives to your damage output to bosses will be very good.
Okay.
Did I miss something else here with IED sources? Oh yeah. Yeah, and then the main thing is going to be, because... Yeah, if you're at like functional of 87.5, that's still rather low. That's like enough to probably do Vellum, since you do have that passive that will kick in every now and then.
Okay.
But the main thing that's going to help here is turning your Legion block that is now 13 into, once that turns into 40, you'll see that. You see this change, and then adding Superior Gollux, the 30. And then that'll go at the expense of the 10% from your, where is it? Boss accessory. And then you add the Monster Parker Medal of 10. And then you're looking at near like 94 functional. So then we're playing ball, right? Then your, what is it? Your, where is it? Like the blaster is maybe going to do 5 instead. Or let's say 4. Maybe the Beast Tamer is gonna do 4, and then your Lumi Link might do 15. No, 20. If you get to that point.
Yeah.
And then the current Lumi, where's the current one? What did I name it? I am blind. Lumi there. So yeah, now we're getting like in the wheelhouse of like this is where we want it, right? So we're not over investing early on, so that because we know we can grow into some of these sources. Yeah, and then your ambition will go a little bit higher. Ambition will go to 10. And now you're just basically at 95. So that's like way closer to where you want it. If then at that point you add, oh, and then this is like without the skill nodes, boost nodes.
Yeah.
And that's going to be an extra 20, and that's the one that's going to take you home. There you go. Now you're at 96, and then everything the team gives you gets you right where you want to be. So that's like the long-term IED plan, but it does require. So for short term, that requires you to get familiars and redo the hyperstats. And yeah, just in general for Legion, think about the characters that give you crit and IED for your just for being in your Legion. Definitely don't neglect those. And if you hate them, then just set them aside, put them on the list for whenever there's a mega burn, and then just go harder on those. So that does mean I would take some points out of I probably preempt. Yeah, I would take some points out of critical damage and critical rate and out of damage for now. So you don't need the arcane power anymore, right? Those 3 points.
No, yeah, I can drop those.
And do you have any in strength?
No.
Okay. What I would do for now with how many points you have, I would just take all of those well, man, I would just put critical rate and ignore defense at. Honestly, I would just put those two at 10 because those are the most important, and then just do one level at a time between the other 3 useful ones.
Okay, so you're saying max, so go crit rate and ID to 10, and then
yeah,
crit
I wouldn't go past. I understand why you did, but I wouldn't go past 10 at all. Like in these stages, going past 10 is like something you do when you're like past level 240, past level 250, because it gets so expensive, and for that amount of points, you can get so many levels in the other stats instead that it just never really is worth it.
Okay.
So I think you'll get it's like 50, 35. Yeah, I think it's like 50 points, 100. I think you should be able to get all the other ones to 8 if I'm not mistaken, but there might be one that gets like stuck on 7. Something like 10, 10, 8, 8, 10, 7, something like that, I think. Yeah, so what also comes into play with how the way that IED works is that because all of the sources are calculated individually, whenever any source is just a huger chunk, it is more efficient than if it was broken up. If it was like the same percentage but broken up into smaller numbers, right? Because if it applies in one chunk to the current IED that's left over, it is more efficient than breaking it up. So that's why we're looking for those 40% lines on Emblem, the blocking your Legion of 40%, the hyperstat of 30. We're looking for those big numbers because those are the ones that are going to make it.
Okay.
Like very easily, right? In this situation, I can add 2 sources of 10 here, and that brings me to 96.67 to 76. 96.76, yeah. Or if I take both of those away and I add 1 source of 20 instead, that now I'm at 96.8. See, that's more because it's all applied in one go. So that's why
we
do it that way. Wait, did you do the hyperstats or did you?
I'm doing them right now, actually.
Yeah. How far are you getting?
I got crit rate at 10, ID at 10, and then the other 3 at 6 right now. Just plugging away here. They're at 7 now. So, I don't think I'll be able to get them all to, like you said, all to 8. Should I prioritize crit damage and boss damage before?
Let's see where you're at. Probably prioritize. Well, yeah, it's tricky. Are you in a guild that has like access to high level skills?
Yes, we have I have 15, like level 50 max boss slayers, max hard hitter, and 10 out of 15 for the guild.
Okay.
Max boss damage, max crit damage, and
Wait, did they max the boss damage one over the regular damage one?
apparently.
Yeah. Well, based on the information you just got from me, you know that that's not
Yes,
the
they did.
optimal decision, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the other one applies everywhere, so that one would be better to use, because that way you can alternate between the regular damage skill and the crit damage skill when you're mobbing as well. So you always have one of the two active, so your leveling speed will also be higher. And you will get the same boost out of it when you're bossing versus when you're mobbing. Whereas if you switch them around, now you do the same amount of damage when you're bossing, but you have lower utility when you're mobbing. So if there's any, you know, leader or junior on in your guild, you can let them know that the next time they can actually help people train faster.
Okay.
That could be useful. Well, you know, try to say it without being a know-it-all, of course, because you want to stay in there. It's like, oh, thanks, and then they kick you, and then they switch it around. Yeah. Wait. So did you end up with 1 at level 8 or 2?
So I got 51 points to spare here, and the 3 are at level 7: crit damage, and boss damage. So, kind of just.
Oh my god! Wait, and is it 25 points to level 1 up?
To get to, yes, it's 25, so I get 2 more to level 8.
Okay, sorry, I'm just marveling in my, because I didn't do any of the number crunching, but just intuitively, that's what it looked like to me, that you would get like 10, 10, and 2 at 8, and 1 be stuck at 7, and that's like, there's 1 point left, and that's exactly what is it. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm like jerking myself really hard here, but like, it's like, it's scary to me that my brain could like see that, even though I didn't do any of the math. That's interesting. Okay, yeah, I would probably prioritize the, I would leave the damage one lower.
Okay.
Because you'll also, I think you can also see that if you put 1 point in boss damage, that gives you, does that give you 4 now?
I get an extra, I think it was a 4 jump. I did it already.
Yeah, versus damage, it gives you 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think you end up at 35% at level 10, and then damage is at yeah. That's why later on in the game, if you're just putting singular points into stuff, well, then you start prioritizing the boss damage line over the damage. But that's talking about like when you're going to like 13 or 14, you know, when you're doing like some crazy stuff because you're like level 260 plus. But yeah, you will keep getting a lot of hyper stats. Initially, we were like, what the fuck are these costs of going past 10? Like, these are insane. How would anyone ever go like past 11 or something? But it kind of makes sense if you see, and especially now with the level cap going up to 300, that's probably going to be an insane amount of hyper stats. So people are going to have like 2 stats at 15 and everything else at 11 or something. It will get nutty. Although, I don't think anyone's getting level 300 anytime soon, since you need 2 quadrillion experience for the last level.
Insane.
It's looking a little bit ridiculous, but, you know, who knows what they'll do. Okay, so that's the huge portion of figuring out the crit rate, the WSE, redoing the hyper stats. Does all of that make, like, a lot of sense right now?
Yeah. The one thing I just want to clarify is just so I'm not screwing around next week. Not like it's a big deal. You can delete the burn character, but so you're thinking, don't do the marksman burn a phantom. If we're trying to prioritize crit.
What level is your phantom now? Did you like the phantom at all, or is it like, was it like a hate character for you?
It was easy to get to 120 with using Pathfinder skill. But I wouldn't. Yeah, not my favorite.
Because marksman is like historically and pretty unanimously also seen as one of the worst annoying characters to level.
Yeah.
And since the phantom can kind of like Pathfinder cheat their way up there, it might still be a better idea to do the marksman, because you're looking at the 4% gain, right, from 0 to 200 versus a 5% gain from 120 to 210 on the phantom. So it's really only a 1% difference. And then since you already have it 120, and you're only going for those last 10 levels extra, and those last 10 levels are basically always doable just because you get 5th job, right?
Yeah.
You have the storylines, 5th job, the extra symbols. You do get a huge boost there, and that usually is enough to like carry you to 210. Yeah, I'd probably still do the marksman, I think. I don't think you will like it otherwise. Some people have said like, like I can barely do it with burning level. Without, I wouldn't even get past like level 22 or something. Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but yeah, in general, people don't enjoy it tremendously, yeah. Yeah, since you were talking about, that'll make sense, right? Or do you
That
have
makes
any
sense. Yeah,
other?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Since you were talking about like CRA and that kind of stuff, is there anything specifically with some of the bosses that you're really struggling with? Because I think one of the main things is probably because of the IED that just not enough of your damage is coming through. And even though we're probably going to see your range drop quite a bit, your actual damage output when it comes to bossing should like increase at least by like 20 to 30% just by doing those
Okay.
few things that we talked about.
Okay. Yeah. In terms of like mechanics and whatnot, I've only ever screwed around with Bonbon, and
Mhm.
I've got him down to like just under a half, just in practice mode, not really paying attention to like where he's standing, like with the clocks and
Yeah,
whatnot, like
okay,
adding
yeah,
time
yeah.
or
That's
decreasing time. So
that's an
I
important
think
detail, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. No, I think the chicken is doable.
Mm-hmm.
If I sit down, focus, have my buff freezers ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the other three, I haven't really attempted. I've watched videos on the mechanics for the chaos modes, but
Mm-hmm.
hasn't. Yeah, it's not something I've done yet.
Yeah, it's really like you gotta get a feel for it. You really just have to go in there and like get killed by a few attacks and be like, oh, that's what they do. Like, it really just is like that. You gotta just hit that wall a few times to really get an insight of, okay, this is what needs to be done and this is the problem that I need to solve. And then you go
Yeah.
back and you look at your character, you look what kit they have, and you see which skills can do that properly. Yeah, like if the queen, for example, like how long it takes you to wind up that fourth V versus how long it takes the queen to charge up their breath. Like let's say that those are perfectly synchronized, that as soon as she starts breathing, you immediately press that button. You get to do the AoE because she's standing still, and then you get to fire it off while she breathes. Like if that is timed perfectly, then that could be something that your character does very well. I don't know if Cutie in the chat can talk about that. Crit rate soul on weapon is nice for a Buccaneer. Yeah, that's. But I think since this is a very new character, I think souls and all of that is something that's only gonna go into play later. Do you know what to do in terms of souls and everything?
Yeah, like I have, I think like 13 in my inventory right now that I have. Like again, I just had the temp CRA, so I hadn't done anything with them yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have the permanent APSO now.
Mhm.
That'll slowly start to build up. And in terms of useful souls, I have a couple like potent souls with the +5 attack power, but nothing that's magnificent.
Yeah. So in general, it's a good idea to wait for magnificent soul events.
Yeah.
And then double click them then, because yeah. The thing is though, like in the beginning, it's probably better and more reliable to use a potent. Like I totally feel you on that one, because even the magnificent are not guaranteed to give you something useful, right? They can give you a stat that's just completely useless. So you do want to get just that damage in early on, and then start saving up for the So using a potent early is definitely viable. You can use the 3 balls during meltdown to have a 1-second iframe 3 times, but I would still just recommend teleporting behind the queen by double tapping the arrow keys in meltdown. Just make good use of Serpent Vortex and Spiral Sword to dodge attacks. They are not iframes, but to get pretty good distance. Yeah, that is true. That surprised me on the Buccaneer how far you get with that Vortex, actually. It's quite a bit more than I thought initially. Howling Fist is an iframe. Don't recommend it at all. Horrible to time. Okay. I think if you start using it, and then right after you start using it, she starts the breath, then at least you know that you're not gonna die, because I'm pretty sure, like if I'm envisioning this correctly, I'm pretty sure that they have about the same wind-up time, so that if you do like that big shot, you should be invincible. If she starts charging her breath right after you start charging your punch, I'm pretty sure she doesn't hit before you hit. So then, but yeah, that's like a timing that you just have to, well, maybe, because maybe it is the other way around and you die to it the first time, you're like, okay, now I know this. But it's important to take note, like, I started then, she started right after, or like a second after, and then you know what your window is. Because like the next time you're holding down a skill and she starts right after, you're like, okay, shit, I have to stop this and jump away because I'm still going to die, or something like that. Or I have to melt down and double tap, and then I guess I lose a DPS, but at least you don't die. Because dying is always worse than losing DPS. Well, most of the time, dying is losing more DPS than actually losing a skill that's DPS.
Yeah.
And it's a 90-second cooldown, so it's not like the end of the world. Yeah, it's just practice. And then, I would watch like one video and then maybe practice a few times. And then just if there's a few things specifically that you're like, okay, I don't know what's going on here, then try to find it back in the video or try to look like a specific guide for the boss to see like what is that specifically that's killing me.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Queen, the zombify is very annoying. Either you have to iframe it or you have to use your hero's will skill to make sure you don't get zombified. Yeah, because then as soon as you press one potion, you just kill yourself. That's super super annoying. Yeah, that kind of stuff. For Vellum, the tails and everything. The main thing for Vellum is just the falling rocks. Once you get a good habit of dodging those, then the boss fight becomes so much simpler because the tails aren't that scary. You just move out of the way. But the thing is, you get stunned by a rock and then a tail appears and then you're just waiting to die because you can't move. That's the main thing. Just the main thing to keep in mind with the rocks is that there's a minimal distance between rocks. So use that to your advantage. Focus on one rock if you're moving out of the way and just envision the distance before, like in front of and behind that rock, and that's always safe regardless of how far of the map you're going. Like there's always a minimal distance between rocks. As long as you keep that in mind, that should help you a lot with Vellum. But yeah, like I talked about before as well, the resistance link is going to be very useful so that if you die, regardless of if you like rage respawn, which we've all done that, like no one's above that, or you time your respawn perfectly, like there's still something that might show up, and the resistance link is definitely going to help you survive some kind of unfair situations. I don't know if you saw me try to do Chaos Ping Bean with someone in the chat yesterday on my Fire Poison Mage, but that wasn't like a great time. Like I died and then he guild res me and then I instantly died again because just an attack, and then I respawned. I instantly got sucked to the middle of the map. I got one tapped again, so it was like three deaths in like 12 seconds. Like okay, if I just had moved my resistance link skill over, that would have been just one death alone, and there would have been way more breathing room for the boss fight. So similarly, that'll help you out. Okay, so we kind of went through the WSE. Those are kind of taken care of, right?
Yep. Would you with that, I guess one more note on that, with the 5, 10, 15 event coming up in January, should I focus more on starring my Apso to 16 or 17, or should I focus on getting the potentials reset on my WSE and clean them up?
I think red cubing the emblem is like the lowest effort, highest reward thing for now.
Okay.
So like even if you just get any kind of combination of big line of IED, one line of attack, or 2 lines of attack, maybe. But then you're looking for a line of IED specifically on the weapon, basically. If you do end up sticking with that, or you can stick with it temporarily, then do the weapon's potential. Let's see what the weapon ends up at, and then redo the emblem again. Typically, the emblem getting 2-line attack, I think the projected cost is like 2 bill, so it's not insane.
Okay.
And then within that, there's also the chance of hitting the other one, hitting the IED. So there are some outs there. If you get like super lucky and you hit 2-line attack and something else that's also useful on top of it, then that's just a lock-in, and then the weapon just gets whatever it can get. I guess that's something we didn't really talk about. Like, how quickly do you make money? Or is it just like Ursus and Tour and whatever you do get training, or?
Yeah, Ursus Tour. Training is kind of like I rushed it to 220, and now I'm just slowing back down, just with work and everything there. So my time to play is like I have quite a bit of time to play, but my desire to grind is not there. So I am doing Maple Tour, Ursus, and then boss runs.
Yeah, the boss runs you can, and then hoping to add the CRA there for the easy extra money.
Yeah. So my income is pretty much the base that you can get without exerting too much effort.
I see. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Yeah, so we don't want to plan like, just throw 30 bill here. That's not gonna make any sense.
Yeah, it's not realistic, that take.
Yeah, no. But since the emblem is already legendary, like the initial investment has already been made, so
yeah,
definitely red cubing there and see if you can get that combination of IED and attack. That's going to be the base one. And when is that's the 17th of January, right?
I think so.
That's a whole month away.
Yeah, so I have a decent amount of time to
Mm-hmm.
build up some sort of fun there. It's just
Yep.
yeah, like the app store's already at 10 or 11 right now. But again, not equipped yet just because of I think I want to work on the potential
For
to
sure.
get it a bit better than what I have on my temporary CRA.
Because you might get other Abzo between that before that time as well, right?
Yeah, so I have enough. I have enough. I just have to do like when reset here for Dark World Tree comes at whatever it's on Sunday, or Monday. Just do 3 more characters worth of weeklies there, and I have the enough to convert to a shoulder.
Mm-hmm. Let me just check real quick with because I need to I just want to plug it into the calculator to see what the big difference is between getting the 15% on the different events, because I don't think it's that big of a deal actually. Because I could be like, oh, this event is cheaper. Well, sure, but if it's cheaper by like 5%, then it's not even worth mentioning, right?
10, yeah. You throw 10 for crown. Not that it really matters, but
yeah, for your weapon now. Is it at 10, 11?
10. Yeah, the weapon's at 10.
Yeah, let's just put 10, whatever. So off event, it's like 7 of 5, 9, 23, and then at 30% off, it's 15. Yeah, so it's like 200 mil difference, and during 5, 10, 15. So you're saving like 50 mil. Versus here, you're saving 150 mil. Yeah, so it's like 100 mil difference.
Okay.
It's gonna depend on how long you want to wait, but since you have the temporary CRA, it's giving you stuff. It's giving you a 30% boss as well, so it's basically like giving you an extra big line of potential right now, right?
Yep.
It's missing out on the attack though, and it's missing out on the ability for you to go hard. If you have the ability, I would say like if you have the money lying around to get OK Star Force and also warrant that by having the ability to get it to legendary and at least get some good potential on that, then it would make sense to boost it up. Eventually you'll do it anyway, and it's still better to do it during a 5, 10, 15 than off event, because it's still going to be cheaper. 10 to 11 is going to happen a lot, and that being 100% chance at least will we'll get down in the cost. And this is also like with safeguarding and without star catching, you'll probably star catch like 13 and up, 13 to 14, 14 to 15.
I'll start catch, yeah.
Yeah, because that does make quite a big difference actually, star catching, because like we're doing like off event right now, like this is like 588, but then if you take star catch away, then you're looking at like 660. So I mean that's like 10%.
Yeah.
Like more than 10% of your cost down. So if you have the money, if you have like so work on the potential now, and then I think if by that time like Ursus and Maple Tour is like 1 bill a week.
Yep. Give or take a bit, yeah. So I'm not like getting the full 100 mil on Ursus, but I'm getting like 93 or something, 92.
Yeah, that's pretty close. So you should have like 4.5 to 5 bill in a month if you save up.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say 2 of that goes to the emblem, and then 2 to the weapon, something like that. So that you have the money to 15, the money to get it to legendary and get some OK potential. That'll be the main thing for your money to go to, I think. Yeah, hopefully we get some flames. I've seen my flame income tank since the update, so that's a little worrisome.
Yeah, actually, talking about flame, I don't even know what I think I have a high tier attack flame on my Apso, but garbage for stat. I got nothing on stat. It's not showing on, I guess, in the album. I just got it like late last night.
So do you know how everything with flames work, like with the score and everything? Have you looked into that?
Yeah, I looked at your calculator last night for a bit.
Mm-hmm. Did you
And
check the video that accompanies it as well, or?
not yet.
Okay. Yeah, because I kind of go into that you can look at how good a flame is now, or you can kind of, based on how much you're going to be upgrading and how much that is going to change the balance of all the stats in your account, what it means to how good that flame is going to be, basically. So what I try to do with the calculator is to try to look a little bit forward to make sure that your flame is also future-proof. And then I go into like the reasonings and how that changes everything. And then there's two major differences. So you can do for all the items in general, and then the weapon is a bit separate because the weapon basically mainly scales off of your tier for your weapon and your magic attack. And then it also has the percentage damage and percentage boss damage, which are very hard to express in terms of the other stuff because because it changes so much, right? Because the balance. Oh, I didn't know he added this. That's cute. Nice. Yeah, so for your current weapon, so what you need to know is if it's flame advantage or not. The video goes into that as well, but Abzo is flame advantage. I'll just tell you that right now.
That's right. Yeah.
160. What's your base attack on your knuckle?
The knuckle for Abso is at 154.
And then, damn, that's low. And then your attack flame is how much?
62.
Yeah, so that's a tier 6. Yeah, you can already see it right here. Or you can add it in here, 62, and then click calculate, and then it'll show here that it's tier 6. Yeah. So that's already nice. So to know if that's what you want, then you can go to this. But again, the flame video kind of goes over all of this. And this is like a good, I don't know if you've seen this one.
I have, yeah. That one, yeah.
So there you can go for weapon flame. You look where you are now. You're right here. And where you want, what you want to have in your team is tier 6. There you go. So if you have anything above tier 6, anything that adds like damage percentage, boss damage, all stat, or some stat, that's all like icing on the cake, and that's basically just going to be enough extra to carry you through. But yeah, as long as you have at least a tier 6 set, that'll be like a very solid foundation. Because you see, eventually what you aim for once you get closer to the end of the late game is like tier 6 plus. So that means you add some of those stats, or a tier 7. But yeah, that's only eternal flame, right? So typically people just get to tier 6 plus, maybe add a line of boss damage, something like that. Okay. So yeah, for the other items specifically, you're going to be holding on to the boss accessory set for quite a long time because of the unease, I guess, of access to superior. Right? It's going to take a long ass time.
Yeah. So I should go straight. You're saying go straight for superior?
Yeah,
Like, okay, so don't waste anything on like a solid or reinforced ring. Just go right for superior earrings, belt, and ring.
So the earring and the belt should drop, hopefully, in a timely manner.
I guess. Yeah, I guess.
And the ring independent is what you want to buy, yeah. And then you can go back from that and buy like the reinforced retroactively, and then maybe also the solid. And then there's some memes that you can do with bunch of solids to transfer hammer into either reinforced or kind of treasure, so that you can get to higher stars on those without having to risk blowing up things like the kind of treasure that doesn't have backups.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're talking like past 17 stars now, so this is quite a ways out. Yeah, until then so the superior ring would be like the next ring, hopefully that you add. There are other rings you can add temporarily, well, I guess temporarily, but like as placeholders.
Yeah, that was the Ifya's ring or whatever.
Yeah, if your ring or the if you get the Ifya ring, then that that opens up another slot for your set bonus. So that would mean that if you either switch out the shoulder for the Sengoku shoulder, or for the same set, right, as the treasure, or already for the Abzo, if you do get access to that, then that would mean that you can start doing Abzo set stuff without losing anything right now for the accessory set. Yeah. That would be the bonus. Yeah, that could be a thing you do. The other thing you could do is you can even add the earring as well, for example, and then maybe you could go for the other belt as well, so you actually have the 3 set for Kana treasure without losing the 9 set for boss accessory. You can puzzle around with that a little bit. but always be looking ahead at, okay, what is this item going to become eventually? Is that going to break up the set? And then as a result, how much do you want to invest in the item? If you can kind of gauge like how long am I going to hold on to this? Is it going to be transfer hammerable over to something else? That means you can go up to epic, no problem. And that the Star Force also becomes relevant and becomes something you can spend more on proportionally.
Mhm.
Is the item just going to be a dead weight in my inventory, not even going to be cubed for drop rate, something like that? Then, you know, at most you go to epic and maybe like 12 stars, and then that's just how far it goes ever.
Okay.
Yeah. So is there any like specific thing when it comes to your equips where you're like unsure how the path forward is with that specific item? With that specific slot, I guess?
No, currently, I think, yeah, I want to, obviously, the temp CRA is good for me till February, so get my permanent CRA to at least 6 or 9% epic strength there, and then eventually, like, it sounds like I'm focusing primarily on my weapon and emblem until I perfect those, or at least get them somewhere.
Yeah, the thing
keeps me at a stable boss and ID.
Exactly. The stuff after that would be if you mainly make your money through your main character while you're training, or you want to make more money while you're training to give yourself more of an incentive to grind. The next thing would be to get your accessories to legendary and to try to get Meso Obtain on there, and some drop rates so that you can get more bags and more money in the bags. You're aware of the Meso Obtain and Meso drop rate difference and how that works with drop rate?
Yes. Yeah.
So as long as you get the chance for the bags at 100% and then maximize on the money in the bags, you'll see it just feels a little bit better to train because you just are like, well, there is all of that money for you just ready to pick up, you know, and if you see like an MVB being smagged, you'll be like, okay, let's go. And then maybe you pop a coupon and then or like pop a totem, and then, you know, maybe you don't do the whole thing with MVPs, but at least you have like a little bit of a drive to get going. And sometimes we just need that little push.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think at first you're just gonna aim for the Abzo, and then 15 and 17, and then probably legendary and like at least 2-line potential and all of that. So you're not gonna. So like long-term planning, there's like 2 major options. One is getting a bunch of 150 item backups and then go mass Star Force and transfer hammer that into the Abzo and then redo the Abzo potential. So with that in mind, you wouldn't go too crazy on the Abzo potential. However, it seems with the current changes that might stop being meta because of how many droplets people are getting and the increased drop rate for the harder bosses and the power creep at lower levels, making it so that people can actually realistically do hard will and hard lucid with only quote-unquote 17-star Abzo with like 2-line or 2.5-line potential and everything else decently upgraded. It seems that most people have access to hard lucid and hard will with that kind of setup. Won't be super easy, but it will save you a lot of time in the long run and set you up for switching into like full 17-star arcane and then start rouletting from there on out. Yeah. So with that in mind, I feel like that setup, because I have seen a lot of reports of people training now getting way more droplets than before. One crazy dude getting like 11 in an hour, but that's like an outlier, of course. But most people reporting that they're getting at least like 3 to 4 per hour now, which is very much in line with the changes that we were expecting from KMS for those people farming at the higher end. So that seems like the second option there that I mentioned is more reliable. That also means that you don't have to line your entire inventory with level 150 items for when that day comes. I would keep like a little bit of a buffer of the items that are more rare, just in case that ends up still being more realistic for you. But really what that comes down to is just like a few enraged Zakum capes, maybe like 5 or 6, and then like maybe a few of those Ramaru shoulders, like 5 or 6 of those, so that you can transfer hammer into Abzo. During a 5, 10, 15, you should never really need more than that to get to 21 to transfer over. Other than that, the only thing you're going to be holding on to is maybe extra belts, so that you can go high on the pink bean belts and then transfer hammer those into superior. That can be very reliable, very useful. The other stuff is just building up massive banks of dineros, right? So you can switch into the accessories and later into the extra pendant, maybe if you get Dominator to transpose, that kind of stuff. And then just massive Gollux coins to work on your rings. But that's all. Yeah, that's not in your equip inventory, right? That's all in resources and etc. So.
Yeah. No, I think I've dented. Like I have just over 220 Gollux coins right now. So I've been jumping in runs when I've been able to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even hard looks itself is probably still pretty tricky, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, makes sense. But with the extra ID, the extra crit, just keep it. Because the one thing we didn't really mention is like the Star Force or cubing event, like whichever event comes around, just disproportionately focus on that because they'll just make your money more valuable. And for cubing, I wouldn't. Sorry, not for cubing. For flaming, I wouldn't really focus on that too hard. Just if you get flames, just flame whichever thing has the greatest potential for increase. So as long as you're kind of aware what flame score they have and what number you're aiming for, just as long as you have in your mind like, oh, the top has like the most increased potential right now. Once you get to a certain level, you'll see that 80, 85, 95% of the flames you're using are just all going to be worse than what you already have. So typically you just want to save up some flames before you get going, and maybe stop a bit early if you're getting close to running out of flames. Just make sure you don't have flames expiring, because that's a little bit wasteful, of course. But I tend to wait until the first ones start flashing, and then I dump a bunch onto my weakest item, and then if I get something that's similar to what it was when I'm almost running out, or I get an improvement, then I just stop and then start saving again, and basically use that strategy so you don't have to settle for like a 5 strength flame when you're used to having 80 on there or something. That always feels a bit shitty. I mean, it probably won't really change your kill speed on anything, it just feels bad. So
yeah.
And then if you see someone's megaphone like flames are a scam, you know that they got one flame, they threw it on an item and they ruined their item. You don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
Okay, but like for every item, the future steps and path is quite clear.
Yeah. No, I think I have something to keep me occupied for at least the next 2-3 months here. I'll between increasing the items improving the items there, and then building my Legion and links there.
Yeah, so if you see that that making that money, if you're going for drop rate mezzo on accessories and stuff, you can try to aim for also one line of like all stat or strength along with it on every item, because that will add up to, because it's 9 items, right? If they all get 9%, that's 81% extra. That's definitely going to make sure that you don't take a huge dip in your killing speed when you're mobbing, because you want to keep one-shotting, or what people refer to as one-shotting, right? You want to be able to keep actively killing without losing out and waiting for seeing the monsters respawn already, and then there's a bunch of monsters still left. That cuts into your rates hard, of course. Yeah.
No, I think that was big help. Opened up my eyes. I didn't expect much in terms of like my character being crazy bad or crazy good. I'd call myself more of a casual player if anything, but just with the lockdown here, it's been easier to play.
Yeah, it is quite a time-intensive game, so if you have a little bit more reliable time to spend, you can see that you can actually get, without even going super hard, you can get a lot stronger in a short period of time by dedicating some time, for sure.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have everything like perfectly lined up to be able to do a majority of the content in the game, for sure. A lot of it comes down to your mechanics and practicing the bosses. But yeah, having making sure that your crit rate IED, like that those are set so that your critical damage and your boss damage and damage, that those can apply appropriately. That's a very good solid foundation to have. As long as your boost notes follow suit there, then your equips are actually like a lower percentage of like your damage output versus all the other stuff combined. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why, during these sessions, I typically just end up with kind of like, okay, and then for equips, I guess you can do this. But they're actually like the smallest part now of the whole account progression based on what everything else can do for you.
Okay.
Oh, and I hope that we get a Dark Lords of Darkness event. I don't know if you've ever heard of those.
Is that
but
the for totems?
yeah, for the totems, yeah.
Yeah, it usually comes to a Halloween, you said?
Usually Halloween, yeah. Last year they skipped it on Halloween, and then they brought it back in February. So
Oh, interesting.
some people are hoping that maybe they'll do that again this year.
Okay.
Some people includes myself, because I've done 2 full events on my arc, and I haven't gotten a single Dark Doom there, so there's still...
Feels bad.
Yeah, comparatively to all the other upgrades I can make, that would be the cheapest, biggest upgrade by far.
Okay.
Yeah. All the characters have like... I mean, I think like half of my mules have like 3 Dark, and then my hero and my arc, ones of the most invested characters into, have not a single one. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
of course.
Usually
Thank
how
you.
it works.
Yeah, thanks RNG. Meanwhile, the Jet has gotten like a total of, I think, 14 Dark Totems or something.
Shit.
And it's like, thanks. And I think my Cannoneer got 7 Dark Dex ones. I was like, really? Cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's just how it goes, right? You know, the game knows what you want and then gives you the other thing.
Absolutely.
So pray for that intellect when you're cubing, okay? So you can...
Oh, I'm hoping. Yeah, 3 lines. Yeah.
Please 3-line int. Yeah. Oh no! What do I do with all this attack? Yeah, that's the dream.
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't have any remaining questions, I think we can wrap it up.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, no problem, and best of luck. And I'll see you in the chat recruiting for struggle parties for Lotus and Damien soon once you get CRA done.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, and I would say if you have some more like in-depth Buccaneers type questions, you could talk to Kaiser Cutie, because he recently started with Buck as well, and he's doing like Lotus and Damien stuff right now. So he's like,
yeah, I watched that video. Yeah, on stream. It's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, he could probably tell you some more specific in-depth things to like dot the I's and cross the T's and stuff like that.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Thank you again,
Yeah,
man.
no problem. Best of luck. See ya.